morning. I have noticed time and time again how I start my day sets the tempo for the rest of the day. And I've also noticed that if I'm not intentional about it, the life of the world will just kind of take over, and then I'll just go that way, whether that's going to be, stressed or anxious or whatever. So this is why I start the day with a little exercise I call a crossword puzzle. I do a number of things to get my day right, but this is one of them. I read through a section of the Bible, and these are highlighted areas. They're called pericopes. So I read a pericope, and then I condense it into a 10-word sentence. And it's really interesting what you discover when you read these kind of bizarre and sometimes arcane pericopes. For example, this is this tiny little spot out of Deuteronomy. This is the law Moses set before the Israelites. These are the stipulations, decrees, and laws Moses gave them when they came out of Egypt. And then here comes the arcane stuff. And we're in the valley near Beth Peor, east of the Jordan, in the land of Sihon, king of the Amorites, who reigned in the Heshbon and was defeated by Moses and the Israelites as they came out of Egypt. They took possession of his land in the land of Og, king of Bashan, 2 Amorite kings east of the Jordan. This land extended from Aor on the rim of the Arnon Gorge to Mount Sirion, that is Hermon, for those of you who need to know where that is, Hermon, and included all of Arabah east of the Jordan as far as the Dead Sea below the slopes of Pisgah. Right. Exactly. Well, then after this, they're going to get the laws, the 10 Commandments and everything else. You can see that. If I'm going to read tomorrow, I'm going to be reading about the 10 Commandments. So this little section, though, what in the world am I supposed to do with that section? Well, it seems that the blessing of God is dependent on our obedience. The more we are obedient, the more we're blessed. Now think about that. We live in a time when people are, if you're obedient, you're, a holy roller, a goody two-shoes, a prude. And nobody likes to be any of that stuff. And plus, we all kind of are a little bit rebellious. We just kind of want to do what we want to do. So this is the 10-word sentence that I came up with. The boundaries of my blessing are linked to my obedience. Now we know that the land that was promised to the Israelites was a big patch, but what they actually wound up with was smaller because they just could not stay obedient or would not stay obedient. I do funerals for people. I would say the word would be officiant. So I see this hundreds and hundreds of times. I see this. And the people who are obedient seem to have better lives. I was at a funeral a couple weeks ago, 92, and the place was packed full of his family and members of his family, and they sang songs and they told stories. Like 4 or 5 people just got up and talked about this guy who was, if he was remarkable, it was for his obedience. He was the oldest in the family, and he came back and took care of the younger brothers and sisters, and he cared about that little town he grew up inside, and he was a man who pretty much was obedient, belonged to a lot of stuff, helped a lot of people, did a lot of things in his life. And then afterwards, before they went down to the basement to eat like they do at churches, they sang a table grace. Be present at my table. Be present at thy table, Lord. You've heard it, I'm sure. And then they split into 6-part harmony. And who was this? Well, it was his family. It was like 100 people. Apparently, when they would get together for grace, they were all good singers. They would split out in the harmony, and the patriarch of the family, this guy's dad, would say, "Oh, that's so good, let's do it again." Obedience. At 92. It's common for me to do funerals for people who die in their 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s. Invariably, they die at least 10 years earlier than they should. And it could be, I'm not trying to, listen, it's not my job to judge other people's lives. But it's okay to observe people's lives and see which life would I want, right? And that's probably the only purpose in this, is to say the habits that you develop in each day will absolutely affect the quality of this day that you're in right now, and then the summation of your life. First you make your choices, then your choices, they make you. Coffee? I guess we'll find out. So I'm going to do this every day. That's my plan. Just do a short video, time with you. Invite a friend along if you care to. It's a good way, I think, to start the day, just to think and get your mind centered on the story you want to have. I'm Jeff Gould, America's Storyteller. I like that story.